Is it all working? Is everything working? That's crazy. I'm not used to that. Dude, I had an unban request today. And I just wanted to show it with everybody because I know that I don't think I can like dedicate an entire segment to unban requests. But I think I can at least cover a little bit. Because sometimes people just have some really funny unban requests. Are you ready to pass justice? Read it. Can we zoom in on this a little bit? There we go. So his name, what's your height, doll? This was like from, I want to say, a few streams ago. 26. 4 streams ago, or 4 days ago. Sunday, maybe? Sunday stream? I can't count. Anyways, so he said, you seem pretty knowledgeable about this, so empowering. I support you in the LGBT community. How did your ear get like that? Were you in an accident? I'm so sorry for you. Accident, sorry. Not shaming, you just haven't seen it before. I'm sorry. Are you a freak? Not like that. I see a lot of people like you in Brunswick where I work. We call them freaks. I don't want to be political, but I think you need dick ASAP. I got 9 inches. Second sentence seems like virtue signaling. A little bit, yeah. The sex request out of nowhere, dude, yeah. And then, where does it show? So he said, you get some dick yet, yalla, unban me. This is where the unban requests are, thank you. Oh, you found it? I know, I'm a genius. Oh yeah, here it is. Down the bottom as well. Get some dick yet, yalla, unban me. Working this out is what I think he wanted you to do. I don't really give a shit. I'm doing what I want to do. If he wants me to do it too, then good for him. To be fair, he wasn't political about it. That's so true. He could have been a lot more political about it, for sure. So he was honest about that part. He said, look, I respect his honesty. Still, what the hell sort of comment is that? Idiot IQ response. I was in this girl's stream the other day and she did unban request and the comment was, Lydia, put your legs behind your head and let me lick your asshole. And his request was, unban me, I didn't mean it. Like, at least this guy fucking doubled down. Didn't, you know, return to monkey, fucking amen. At least this guy didn't, you know, go back on what he said. Kind of doubled down, you know, stuck to his guns. I can respect that. Request denied. He's a man of conviction. Exactly. Exactly. So does he think that gets to determine the rules of his unban since he decided whether or not you've gotten dick since the message is the criteria? Yeah. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's the problem. It's just because, you know, obviously I'm a virgin and, you know, celibate forever. I feel this guy is trying to be very ironic and funny, but doesn't know how. Maybe that's too charitable though. Maybe just empty brain. It's hard to tell, right? It's hard to tell because like it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny, but like, yeah, it's funny. But the thing is, I don't want to unban him and then have him keep doing that, but not in a funny way. See, like if we're giving him the benefit of the doubt, Crawler Father, I don't want him to come back and keep being an idiot. Please stop giving him the benefit of the doubt. I give too much of the benefit of the doubt. I am actively criticized for how much benefit of the doubt I get. Metal Meat Man 420, welcome. How you doing? How we doing? Hello.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
You say nope, no, don't unban. Should we do? I can do like a quick poll. I think, you know, I think the people have spoken. Someone tossing a cheeky yes. We need the outliers. Super cheap votes. Yeah, I did set it as one point. That's good. How do you extrovert? I mean, I think I ticked the option to allow you to extrovert, but I don't know how. It won't let me, but I just assume that's because I'm the streamer. So no unban, deny. What should I say? Chat took a vote. Request denied. So this is just a clip from me from a year ago when I was streaming last year. So those who haven't seen my old stream, you can kind of get a small taste for old Bug now. Mini Bug, this is Mini Bug. This is before I shaved my head, dude. Look at that. I don't know, I really like how my chat used to look like this. for some reason my chat's broken. I can't do that. Fake clip, they forgot to put your ears in it. Dude, I know. It's alright, it's the headphones, they covered them.
Yeah,
you look like some actress. I had a lot of people fucking compare me to Amber Heard, especially when the trial was going on. That shit fucked me up. Do you become a Buddhist? You really shaved your head? Yeah, bro, I got... Do you want me to show you a picture?
Yeah, you can
sorry. We're gonna watch this. Oh, I gotta turn up my volume. There we go.
Stream? That's a good question. How's stream? Yeah, you can ask yourself how's stream? That's a good question. How's stream going? Yeah, I'll
That's good.
You know what? Listen, someone mark the date. In a year from now, I'm gonna ask myself how's stream going. And we'll like flip it. Yeah, you can ask yourself how's stream? That's a good question.
How's stream going a year from now? Well, we gave up, but we're back at it and doing better than ever. So fucking relevant. That's some good fucking timing for that clip, honestly, for everything that I was talking about before. That's a... Dude, I look so tired, bro. I look so tired here. Oh god. Oh man, you look so young. Oh man, I look old now. Oh, you look good. Thank you, I appreciate it. Don't follow her Insta. Yeah, follow me on my Instagram. Give me a toxic relationship right now. We're here to be toxic as fuck. Oh, sorry. So, but to kick the conversation off, we're gonna read a bit of a cringe one. I just was reading this and I thought it was funny. I feel like the only answer for this one is that it has to be written ironically. But there was also... Okay, wait. Actually, before we do that, I think the discourse around toxic relationships more recently has become very interesting, and I see that there's a lot of issues on both sides of the fence ultimately, and I think that's like I said, we've sort of touched on these issues in the past, and we've talked about it a little bit in the past. We've touched on these issues in the past, you know, sort of here and there, but I feel like the specifics of the conversation we haven't really delved too far into. Walked away for a minute, came back, now there's two pretty women on my screen. This night is getting better. I like your ears. Thanks, Hot. Hottie, sorry.
Shit.
Ozzo, welcome. How you doing? Welcome. And so I kind of wanted to get into it a little bit more. I also saw some things from... It's Brett something from the Daily Wire. So she's one of the girls that talks on the Daily Wire. Is it fucking Ben Shapiro's daughter or something? Because she deadass just looks the exact same as Ben Shapiro. She just looks like a female Ben Shapiro, not gonna lie. Hello, sorry, hey beautiful number one streamer. Thank you so much, Ozu. How you doing? Brett Cooper, that's it, Brett Cooper. She has like, sometimes, Ben Shapiro's daughter, I saw the videos. What? Nani? Huh? What? Brett Cooper, yeah. Everyone says that. Well, she does. And she also kind of comes off like him. And the thing is, I don't really mind Ben Shapiro's opinions a lot of the times. I just don't like how he communicates them because I think he comes off like a massive fucking cunt. And I don't respect people. Ben, my wife's a Dr. Shapiro. Yeah, exactly. I don't really like, or at least I find it difficult to respect people's opinions when they're like, you know, it's just a fucking screaming match. And then obviously, just a quick side note as well about, because I just realized I saw this. I also wanted to talk about like, you know, toxic TikTok and just the general culture around dating advice, because it's something that I experienced growing up. I think, you know, it's like the whole toxic femininity, the whole toxic masculinity, and social media influencing the expectations surrounding relationships. I think that's something that I definitely had, you know, some pretty significant experiences with growing up. And I think in a lot of ways, like being on things like Tumblr, being on Instagram, being on just general social media does give you a bit of a warped perception about what real relationships are like. Equally, Johnny mentioned a couple streams ago, the idea of the media influencing our perception of both relationships and platonic relationships. So I thought that that was like a really interesting aspect that I wanted to get into as well. I'm 31, was in a relationship for 7 years, went to shit, had 2 dumb relationships since then, and now staying single for a year. Well, obviously, like if you look at, I was not on Tumblr, but it sounds like it made millennial women feral. It was an experience. It was definitely an experience. I think Ali Sunvr actually has a video on it. Yeah, I really liked what you said, Johnny, but I was like obviously in the middle of Elden Ring, so it was difficult for me to give like a good response at the time. But yeah, what you said, I'm Sam. I think that there's a lot that I'm seeing that kind of aligns with what you're saying, is that like people have had like, you know, a couple of long-term relationships, maybe a couple of short-term relationships, and then a lot of people are single. I think like if you look at the statistics surrounding it, Cosmopolitan, a very reliable fucking news source, apparently a quarter of single people aren't interested in monogamy. Okay, I don't give a fuck about that. Folks put forward of endless bliss, you're when you hit hard times you think you're weird, but really everybody has hard bloody times. I think that's a really fucking excellent point. I was in a toxic relationship, resulting that I don't want to have a relationship anymore, at least not for now. And this is like a massive consensus that I've seen in general. I think a lot of people's perception of relationships and attitudes and sort of opinions on relationships have changed significantly. Changed significantly. Let's try that again. I think people's view on relationships have changed significantly. I think some relationships don't work out because people aren't willing to blow off a little steam by cheating once a week or so. If you don't keep your partner on her toes, she's gonna start taking you for granted. Dude, that's such a fucking great point. Excellent dating advice right there. Do you think the expectations around relationships are part of the feedback loops that lead people to lacking identity or a well-developed sense of where their self-worth comes from? I think that's actually a really, really good point. And I think it's like something, dude, it's like, you see it a lot. It's like generally like the very typical advice. It's what I will always say as well, that like, if you're looking to get into a relationship and you want to have a positive and healthy relationship, I think the general starting point is to just spend a lot of time investing in yourself and your own relationship with yourself, and to use that to inform your relationship with other people and how you perceive other people as well. And then I think like that, plus like pursuing your own hobbies and interests, and just like generally living your life in accordance with the values that you want to see in your life, you'll eventually, you know, start to attract the people that you are wanting to. You know what I mean? When you identify what your values are, I think identifying what your values are, zeroing in on them, and then also recognizing where you're resenting yourself for not meeting your own expectations, and like, you know, just exercising a little bit of radical acceptance for those parts of you that don't live up to what your ideal version of yourself is. I think that's also a really big part of it. I'm not against being a stepfather, but I'd also like my own kids too. So meeting single mothers out there, sorry. Mothers, there is always to talk about kids and how spaced out they want versus time horizon. People have kids into their 50s and 60s, bro. I fucking hope not. Do you feel it is somehow a less justifiable opinion for a straight woman to want to be married without kids, or to not get married, or have kids at all? I don't think it's an unjustifiable opinion. I think you can definitely justify that opinion for yourself. And didn't Halle Berry just have kids? Oh, maybe. Fuck. I've spoken to people who were like, you know, I knew this girl who was in a relationship for 10 years. They did end up breaking up, so that's, you know, to each their own. But when I asked her about getting married, and I asked her if she would ever consider getting married, she said, no, not really, except for the tax benefits. Like, that's the only reason why she had really turned her mind to it at all. And there are a lot of people that I know like that who have been dating for a significant amount of time but haven't really considered marriage. And also I do hear about a lot of people getting married and having traditional relationships as well. So I'm not at all saying that traditional relationships are extinct. I think that that is still, you know, very much a value that we hold in our society. I just think it's like, it's becoming less and less apparent, and especially in the younger generations. I think the relationship, with relationships is a bit more of a skewed one, especially when it comes to having social media so readily available and able to influence your opinion of the outside world, which I think it's disingenuous to think that social media doesn't influence our interpretation of the outside world. Like, I think it really does have an impact, which is why, like, I think things like this, like creators giving out terrible dating advice about like texting, gaslighting, and crushing the male ego, like this kind of stuff I think can be really, really difficult. And the fact that people are just like so easily able to just fucking share their opinion, same could be said for me as well. Like the fact that I'm able to so easily share my opinion on the subject, even though I'm not at all qualified, is like, you know, in real life, there are loads of traditional relationships, but there is definitely a significant trend that I've seen in real life of people not wanting to get married and not wanting to have kids. Like these are like, you know, I'll ask point blank, do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? And they're like, no, absolutely not. Especially from women. I hear it a lot from women, and I think that that's a little bit concerning to me. There is concern about genetic degradation though, which is why I'm looking for a girlfriend that never had dental x-rays. Lol, what? Personally, do want to get married and have children, but don't necessarily think that other people should be obligated to do so. Exactly. We've talked about this before, like social media makes everybody available almost constantly. So we have this like skewed perspective about what availability actually is. What Oli Sunvia sort of describes as the man written by the woman, which is like this idea that social values have changed and therefore males have changed over time. I think females have changed a little bit too. So you can apply that to both sides of the fence. There was also a study which said 63% of men under 30 report being single in America. That's what I was trying to find. Hold on. There we go. So I think one of the videos that I watched yesterday about, it was like, it was coming from a male perspective. It was just like a guy be like, I'm 24 and this is why I'm single kind of thing. But he does take a really balanced approach of appreciating that both men and women have a role to play in the reason that our perception of relationships have shifted and why we see more toxic relationships, which is why I kind of went with the title toxic people or toxic relationships. Is it something that only happens in relationships, or is it something that is influenced from an external perspective of like individuals changing their expectations due to social media? And so it comes down to a toxic individual level. And people, I think victimization culture also plays a massive role in this. In the video, the guy talks about how victimization in the red pill community contributes to negative impacts on men. And then I would say for women, the victimization comes from a different place. But there is very much this idea that I've perceived and I've witnessed in relationships from women, like when they're both in the relationship and after the relationship, or if they're taking a break from the relationship. Like there's a lot of this expectation that the guy do all the work and that the guy pick up the slack, and that they've just been trying so hard to do everything and they're just this massive victim of circumstance that things aren't going the way that they want them to. And so I think for women, that's where the victim culture sort of starts to kick in, is this idea that every sort of negative experience you have makes you a victim of like an abusive relationship. I think as well, extending the definition of what an abusive relationship has skewed people's perceptions of just having negative youthful relationships, which is a part of growing up and learning. Sorry, I will get to chat, but I that's just kind of my rant on it. I think single parenthood is something, and it's something that I see that is referenced a lot in relation to other social issues. So I think it's an excellent point that is made, is like the rising statistics about being single. So what we've got, 6 in 10 young men report to be single. Like that's a very, very high number. And then also like the single parenthood has also, I believe, gone up, or at least the statistics surrounding single parents. I thought I said it right. Polyamorous relationship, a sigma. Well, we kind of talked about polyamorous relationships the other day. To me, it's just a lot of fucking time to be investing in people, and it's a lot of emotional energy to be investing in people, to be having multiple relationships on the fly. But yeah, I think kind of what Cheese said, that, but you used to be, yeah, that's correct, but Mormons aren't polyamorous, you used to be. No, sorry, I had a friend who's ex-Mormon, and he was like, yeah, the polyamorous thing is just like, it's not really a thing anymore. Bug's dad probably eats 4 egg yolks a day. My dad is a bit of a Chad. Your dad sounds like a real top bloke. Dude, my dad is a fucking G. Like, my dad did not have it easy by any means, but never copped out on it, he always put his hand up to do the things that needed to be done. And, I think that there are things that I can fairly criticize my dad for, the same way that you can fairly criticize anybody for things, but I will say that ultimately my dad is probably one of the best men that I've ever met, and I think that's an excellent relationship to have with your dad, because it is something that I don't feel like is as actively talked about. Like as a child growing up, there was a lot of positivity surrounding moms, a lot of negativity surrounding dads. It's started to, I guess, balance out a little bit more, but I think Jordan Peterson was the first person that I encountered talking about the devouring mother, and that was like the first time that I'd really encountered that idea. And I gotta say, it felt very validating, and it also felt a little bit like, oh shit, people actually talk about this. Like, that's fucking wow. The key takeaway is balance. The kids and people need a balance between masculine and feminine energy, and neither are bad, neither are negative, except when it's taken to the fullest extent of that experience. You can still have a positive masculine experience, and you can still have a positive feminine experience, and you can also be both genders and have that experience. I've talked about this before. Carl Jung talks about the masculine and the feminine experience and how that is something that is fostered in, for all of us. But I think there's also a great amount of shame that's attached to masculinity. I think there's also a bit of a vagueness around what the definition of masculinity is, especially when you come to incorporate these ideas of toxic masculinity. Same in the reverse for femininity. I think this idea of femininity has been, the waters of it have been muddied a little bit, especially when you incorporate concepts such as toxic femininity. Adults under 30 are the most likely age group to be single, with roughly half falling into this category. In contrast, 30 to 49-year-olds are the least likely to be single. So we got some single people up in this bitch. That was what I think I pulled this off and then absolutely just did not get into it because I got completely distracted. Not quite dating, but not hooking up either. You're in a situationship. It's the all-purpose term for the limbo in love life. It was an interesting question I saw one day. Who started hookup culture? Yeah, where did that start? Because that kind of relates to the situationship. It said 1920s. 70s were def hooking up. It's not a Tinder sensation. Well, no, I don't think it's like a new thing. It's not so much about the woman's femininity being discouraged. It's more about things where being emotionally open and vulnerable, expressing concerns, fears, or weaknesses are seen as generally favorable values for all of society rather than promoted in girls and discouraged in boys, where both are taught to behave certain way towards themselves and their peers. The differences are not so large. Okay, I understand where you're coming from. And this is a point that Olivia Sun-VR makes in her video, that like, I think society has shifted into values that would more align with what you're saying, where both genders, yeah, doesn't mean grossly sensitive or overly doting. Yeah, I think there's a difference between being generally empathetic and then going so far as being like just overly emotional constantly. Not a best take. Let me try and like reword that. Okay, so as I was saying in Ollie Sunvia's video, she makes the point that as society has sort of shifted and a lot of like these sort of feminist rhetorics have been pushed and discussed further and further in the media and have been like brought into the media more and more and developed more and more, you've seen this shift in the way that men engage with the world, and the way that people view masculinity, the way that men view masculinity, like all these sorts of things I feel like have shifted. And then you also have like people who sit far at the end of the spectrum, like incels in the red pill community, and then you have people who sit maybe further at the other end, or you would describe as a soy boy or whatever. I think like a lot of these differences can have, or a lot of these shifts do have a positive attribute to them, but like I said, it's shifting towards a want rather than a need. And I think like by failing to anticipate or consider the fact that we have needs that are outside of our desires, there is this, yeah, we've kind of reached more of a middle ground, but it's also kind of not exactly a middle ground. It's more of an overcorrection. And I think the way that I've perceived men and the way that I've watched men change over time, and the way that I watch older men versus younger men, there is a significant difference in the way that I think men interact with the world and the way that they interact with each other, especially. Like, it's not necessarily a problem that people are being raised to be a bit more on equal footing with certain things, but I do think that there is an issue with treating men and women as the exact same and raising them and trying to foster them as if they are the same. I think that there is a, role where female and male, roles and relationships do need to be considered. And I think like my own experience as a woman who I think, in a lot of ways had my femininity neglected, not intentionally, but just as a byproduct of single parenting, sorry. I do feel like that there is that need to appreciate the difference between both genders. And my dad, I think, always tried to incorporate that into his parent. Obviously, he has limitations from his own perspective, but that's just the way that it's kind of always, I've always interpreted and understood it, if you know what I mean. I think social media plays a role into this. It warps people's view on what relationships should be and shouldn't be. Go on Reddit and they give terrible advice. Let's be honest, Redditors aren't known for to be swimming in partners. Talk to his mum, divorce, get a lawyer, leave them. Well, yeah, and that's what we were talking about. Maybe let's go back one. This is what we were talking about with toxic TikTok, is that there is like this just terrible advice going out all over the internet. And like you have these new fucking phrases like beige flag. The beige flags are signs on a dating app that someone hasn't put much effort into their dating profile. It typically means the conversation and the potential date that might follow could also be dull and unsuccessful. If someone has a lot of beige flags in their profile, you'll probably get to the end of it without having really learned anything about them. But, it's like you're overcomplicating it to the fucking shithouse cunt. It's really not that fucking complicated. It's really not that fucking, to that is that human and not blank states either. We all react differently to the same nature versus nurture upbringing. Oh, 100%. That's a really good point. it's a very, you know, we're all very unique in individual experiences, and I think appreciating your own unique and appreciating that your life is like a big fucking Venn diagram, right? There's a Venn diagram of like gender roles, there's a Venn diagram of gender tendencies but for like I've said before, female and men and women have female and male tendencies. These are both completely fine. It's just like, you know, what the higher proclivity is for mental health as well. It all kind of forms this big big Venn diagram where a lot of different things play a role into who we are, and that makes us all very individual and unique. But I think just getting into individualism culture and modern dating is just to touch on my topic a little bit, just a thing. You know, that hyper individualism and that hyper focus on the individual and their desires and their expectations has meant that I think that there has been like a reduced ability to understand where each other are coming from, and also understand that people are fucking human, and in relationships people are going to be bad and people are going to be good, and everything is kind of dumbed down into a beige, red, pink flag. I've also seen the observation with the higher expectation on men to provide and women to receive, and that seems to be something that has been pretty consistently kept through, and it's something that I think I've witnessed from, you know, the women that I've been friends with, and when they've talked about their relationships, there is again, this is anecdotal, there is like kind of this skewed expectation as to what is expected in each of the roles. And I think, you know, it's a bit of a, you know, want to have your cake and eat it too, from both sides of the fence, where it's like we want the other person to be a certain way that fits our expectation, but we don't want to have to be the one to change in any way, shape, or form to facilitate that, you know. And then again, you can kind of debate that a little bit, but I think that is what it ultimately comes down to in a lot of ways in these sort of disputes, if that makes sense. I'm fucking definitely rambling a lot. Hormones are a very interesting topic. Impacts on birth control, medication, class, stress, and so on. Dude, no, I think that's a really, really good point, and I totally understand that women get the fucking shit end of the stick on this one, and wanting to be promiscuous and sleeping around and shit like that. Impacts on birth control, yeah, it's like I saw this thing that was like, when women are sleeping around with women, I think it was talking about like whether dudes should have a right, or should have the ability to have a say in the abortion process as to whether or not the woman will have it. And it's like, well, you can't have the expectation that men will contribute to the child's life post pregnancy if you don't give them the option to have a say pre-pregnancy. And so that kind of, I'll remember where my point was going with this. Oh yeah, then that kind of transcended into the woman making the point like, well, if the people that you're sleeping with, you wouldn't be able to afford them that kind of honest and open discussion and that ability to have that kind of conversation about having a child, then maybe you should be more selective about who you're sleeping with. And this is like what comes down, what I was going to say about the birth control is that like women do really have the shit end of the stick when it comes to like the ability to sleep around, be a bit of like a hashtag hoe, because one, the impacts of birth control are long term, and it's you know, I think it should be given a little bit more consideration. It's not to say that I don't think that, you know, these kind of healthcares, you know, birth control shouldn't be available. I think it is ultimately just a component of healthcare, but I really wish there was a bit more education on the topic and the effects that those kind of hormones can have on your body. But I think what ultimately it comes down to is this idea of like, you know, should women be, you know, facilitated being able to sleep around? Like, is slut culture a good thing? And, you know, is it beneficial to ourselves long term? And in some ways I think it's okay, and in some ways I think like there are concerns to be had for this, you know, kind of thing. And I think as most of my concerns come down to the use of birth control, and the impacts of birth control, not just on men, but not just on women, but on men too, because there is like a rising rate of male birth control. And I think for both fucking parties, it's really, really concerning, and there needs to be a little bit more information about what sort of impact those hormones have on us. Because if you've even read like a tiny bit about hormones, like fucking dishwashing detergent, like the laundry detergent can impact your hormones. Perfumes can impact your hormones. Like very tiny unrelated things can impact your hormones. So shoving fucking artificial hormones into your body clearly is going to do a thing or two. Your environment was largely similar to your peer groups in school. Peer group, school, and social setting different in the home, and your conclusion ended up mostly the same as other women but slightly different. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying you can make the bio argument or the sociological argument equally well. So there's no major biology. So saying there is no major biology is irresponsible. So we're saying there is absolutely major biology rather than sociology driving most things so equally. So okay, all right. I see where you're getting at, then. 100%. Like I agree with you. I think, you know, nature versus nurture. It's both. And I would agree with that conclusion, that it's like, you can't have a single factor analysis about the way that men and women are, or the way that relationships are, you know? It's not how null conditions work. However, there are no papers to prove that women are actually more emotional, absent sociological factors that I'm aware of. I would really like to read the research here. Empathy is just an emotion, or is there an action and reason that is part of empathy? Well, the reason I think it's a bit of both. Yeah, I think empathy comes down to emotion and action. I think it comes down to your ability to walk a mile in a man's shoes, right? I think that's ultimately what empathy comes down to, and I think the ability to see things from other people's perspective is something that comes a little bit more naturally to women. Probably because when you're raising kids, you have to be able to see things from their perspective. So having that high level of empathy and understanding that even though this toddler is throwing a fucking tantrum over the fact that you won't let it touch the stove, and that might seem like a massive overreaction to you, you're able to exercise that empathy and go, okay, I see where you're coming from. Just because, in hunter-gatherer times, like, dudes would probably be spending more time not really socializing quite as much, whereas women would be spending a lot of time socializing. These are the sort of habits that have been picked up. Now it's like a little bit different, but I think also natural selection and the way that our bodies and brains develop to accommodate to the environment that we're in now take a lot longer than we've had time to really adapt to, you know what I mean? So there's constant... I think like just the point about like society has shifted so much and our biology hasn't really had a chance to catch up is a really good one. Oh, sorry, it's a really interesting one. 8 billion people on the planet, there's 100% something better out there 100% of the time, like ancient culture, male versus female role and their effect on evolution. Sorry. Oh, right, yeah. I think I got confused because of the colors. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I would agree and disagree, because I think there's always going to be something better out there, and there's also nothing that's better out there. Because I think it's only what you make, like a relationship is what you make of it, and what two people are willing to make of it. So I think if you don't have two people who are equally invested in the relationship, it doesn't, like, the gender roles don't fucking matter. The relationship is going to fail. Or if you don't have two people who have an aligned commitment to the relationship, which, obviously commitment can be displayed in different ways, love can be displayed in different ways, relationships, and how people participate in relationships obviously going to be displayed in different ways. So if you aren't able to sync that up and appreciate where each person is coming from, even if they love you the way they want to love themselves, it can be very difficult. Beauty for the internet is that these days is that there is easily someone better on call 24/7 available to your local dating app. Had an argument, easy to cheat on them. Oh geez, that's yeah. Plus social media destroying our delayed gratification. People will be baited by cheating more often than ever. That's actually, that's a really, really good point. I think especially about the delayed gratification and the way that social media is destroying our ability to engage in delayed gratification. I think that, I think the delayed gratification point is a really, really good one. And I think with that delayed gratification or like having less delayed gratification, cheating in relationships, in probably more situationships than actual relationships, and since situationships are the new relationship, just in general, the delayed gratification, because like a solid, healthy, long-term relationship does involve quite a bit of long-term gratification. Delayed gratification. And obviously there are different things that go into having a solid, healthy, long-term relationship, and those things are going to be different for everybody, because we are individuals and we do have our own perspectives, as we've like sort of I think generally come to agree, is that whatever your environment was growing up, that's going to shape who you are as much as your biology is going to shape who you are, as much as whatever else is going to shape who you are. Cheating in general, and I agree, delayed gratification is super important and creates more long-term joy. It's also, like I said, a sign of higher order thinking, which is super exciting when we see it in other animals, but apparently not so exciting when we see it in ourselves. Just imagine eating all the time, never being hungry. Your taste of food would be so much worse. Yeah, well, yeah, that's pretty much what it is, because you're just constantly on dating apps and you're constantly on the slot machine, social media. I fucking hate social media, and it's like, in a lot of ways, I don't really want to do streaming because I don't really agree with the environment and like the online sort of structure. It like there is a lot of issues with that for me. I think also with money, there's a lot of issues with that for me. But I also really enjoy streaming, so it's like hard to make a solid call on it. It's designed weirdly, and it feels immoral to participate in this kind of environment. Like, it feels like it goes against the things that I personally believe about, like, interconnectedness and, like, dealing with people on a physical and personal level, and fostering those really important relationships, and also living in a way that is, not going beyond your means, and is, engaging as much as you can with your environment, which, completely goes against all of that being on Twitch. I sit in my room, I don't get much sunlight, and it's, yeah, there's a lot of different things. But I'll try to stay on point for the fucking first, for the first time ever. But yeah, the delayed gratification is super important in long-term relationships. You know, like that's like a part of having kids, part of getting through difficult issues with people over an extended period of time, because people aren't going to stay the same. People are going to change, and people are going to go through difficult experiences, and it's going to test their resolve, and it's going to test, you know, other people's resolve, the people that are around them. And you know, there have been people where I have had to cut off my relationship with them, both friends and in relationships, because you know, I think, okay, I'm gonna reference an Eminem song here, so don't fucking cringe at me, but there was a song from one of his later albums that was like, not bad people, just bad together. And I think that's like, you know, also a really, really important point, is that like when people go through breakups, there's like this very socially ingrained need to see your ex as a bad person. I think, at least as a woman, this was my experience growing up and with social media, is that there's this very heavily, he's an asshole, he's a bad guy, didn't know you, like, you know, he didn't deserve you, we're gonna go like take you out, make you look nice, you know, get you a nice glow up, you're the total victim in this situation, like shit, he's the fucking bad guy, he should have appreciated, you know. I think from my perspective, there is like that very heavily leaning towards like seeing your ex as like the bad person, like not today. No, and that's good. That's really good that there are people that still like their exes. I don't think I could have like a good relationship with most of my exes. I think some of them I'd be friendly with, but I wouldn't really go out of my way to talk to them, if you know what I mean. Hard to see positive when you raise genuine concerns about the trans movement instead of being engaged in honest discussion about it. You get labeled a transphobe and people burn your books as a result, though. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree, and that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to fight by talking about these things, and allowing people to express their own ideas about different topics. Our culture doesn't promote the idea of healthy long-term relationships, about short-term gain, vapid and shallow effects. The idea that leaving someone over a minor infraction is dragging both genders down. Oh, 100%. What's your opinion of maths? Cringe. I find dating shows, dating streams, dating stuff, like all that kind of shit, I find it cringe. It's cringe as fuck. Like, have you watched that shit, dude? Like, it's funny. How harmful do you think it is? I think it's like Schadenfreude. It's fucking funny because the people that go on it are fucking stupid, and they're just like, I have no other word to describe these people but NPC, or like a two-dimensional person. That's the best way that I can sort of describe it, is like, it's tragically funny. Yeah, it's tragically funny, but it's also fucking depressing. Like, this is where we're at. This is where we're at as a society. We get Schadenfreude from watching idiots have like fucking awkward interactions. Like, is there nothing better that people have to do with their time but go on these shows and participate and consume these shows? I just trying to promote their career rather than genuinely looking for love. Love Island, go hard though. Don't dog it. I won't knock it till I try it. It's crazy how they go through all these psychological terms at each other like they've been told, but not the meaning. Yeah, it's just like, it's just like a weird perception of relationships, like you said, that is more about getting fucking clout. It's like WWE, exactly. It's all fucking scripted, and it's about getting clout more than it is about fostering healthy relationships. But I think people watch that and then they make judgment calls about that, and then they fail to recognize the inherent hypocrisy that comes with being a fucking human being. And I think when people fail to recognize that inherent hypocrisy that we all fucking have, you judge people, right? You judge how they are. You judge how they are on these shows. Like, I'm judging them now by saying they're fucking stupid. But it skews that relationship, and I think it can make it very, very confusing for people. They'd be picky carrots not to applying to all of them and getting up there in age. I'm fucking, bro. I'm documenting this and giving it to my fucking therapist. Yeah, free and open discussion is encouraged, except from Bug. Excuse me? Wait, hold on. Bring that back. Sanj, what the fuck? Except for Bug? Huh? I think it'd be understandable for conversations to get heated here since we're kind of talking culture war, but this is a good community. And that's something that I really appreciate, is people's abilities to respectfully engage in these conversations and express their own opinions and feel like that is something that they are entitled to do. That's what I want to achieve here. I feel like we're doing it pretty well. And these topics are hard. They are difficult. And people are going to have their own opinions. And I think there will be a level where we agree to disagree. But I do think that there should be a level where we try to really incorporate other people's opinions into our own perspectives and allow those to inform our own worldview.